1. The Dancing Plague of 1518. In July of 1518, in the city of Strasbourg, something truly unexplainable began to unfold. It all started with a single woman, Frau Trophea. No music, no clear reason. She simply began dancing in the middle of the street. At first, it seemed like an isolated incident, but hours turned into days, and she didn't stop. Then something even more disturbing happened. Other people began to follow her lead. Within days, dozens. Then hundreds of people were dancing uncontrollably. This wasn't joy. It wasn't celebration. It was as if their bodies no longer belonged to them. Accounts from the time describe people screaming in pain while they continued to dance. Many collapsed from exhaustion, only to get back up and keep going. Some suffered heart attacks, strokes, and died. Yes, died from dancing. The authorities, unable to understand what was happening, made an even stranger decision. They hired musicians and set up spaces for people to dance it out. But that only made things worse. To this day, no one knows exactly what caused this phenomenon. Theories range from mass hysteria to fungal poisoning from contaminated bread, or something far more unsettling. Because the real question isn't why they danced, it's how so many people lost control all at once. 2. The Tunguska Event. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, a colossal explosion tore through the sky above a remote region of Siberia, near the Tunguska River. Witnesses reported a fireball streaking across the horizon, followed by a flash so intense it turned night into day. Seconds later, a devastating shockwave ripped through the landscape. The blast was so powerful that it flattened an estimated 80 million trees across more than 800 square miles. And here's the strangest part. There was no crater, no clear point of impact, no obvious fragments, just a vast forest laid flat as if something invisible had crushed everything in its path. For years, the event remained a complete mystery. Some believed it was a meteor that exploded mid-air before ever reaching the ground. Others suggested something far more unusual, like a collision with unknown matter, or even an extraterrestrial craft. Scientific expeditions didn't reach the site until decades later, due to the region's extreme isolation, and even then, they found no definitive evidence to fully explain what had happened. Today, the leading theory points to an airburst, an asteroid or comet exploding in the atmosphere, but questions still linger. If it was just a space rock, why didn't it leave a clear trace? And even more unsettling, what if something like this happened today, over a city? 3. The ghost ship Mary Celeste. In December of 1872, a ship named the Mary Celeste was found drifting in the Atlantic Ocean, completely intact. At first glance, everything seemed normal. The cargo was largely untouched. Supplies were still in place. Even the crew's personal belongings remained exactly where they should have been. But there was one chilling detail. There was no one on board. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his family, and the entire crew had vanished, without a single sign of struggle, violence, or a desperate escape. The lifeboat was missing. But why abandon a ship in perfect condition? What makes it even stranger is that the Mary Celeste was still seaworthy. There were no clear signs of imminent danger. Over the years, countless theories have emerged. A pirate attack, a mutiny, fumes from leaking alcohol triggering panic. Even more extreme explanations, like supernatural intervention. But none of them fully account for every detail, because the real mystery isn't just the disappearance. It's the silence left behind. An entire ship, fully functional, yet empty, as if the people on board had simply vanished into thin air. 4. The Lost Colony of Roanoke. In 1587, a group of English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, hoping to build a new life in what they called the New World. Among them were men, women, and children, including Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America. At first, everything seemed promising, but the challenges quickly set in. Limited supplies, tensions with native tribes, and an unfamiliar, unforgiving environment. Desperate for help, the colony's leader, John White, returned to England to gather supplies. The plan was simple. He would come back as soon as possible, but that's not what happened. Because of the war between England and Spain, he was delayed for 3 years. And when he finally returned, he found something deeply unsettling. The colony had completely vanished. No bodies, no signs of a struggle, no clear evidence of what had taken place. There was only one clue, a single word carved into a tree: Croatoan. Was it the name of a nearby island? A cry for help? A coded message? To this day, no one knows for sure. Theories range from assimilation into local tribes, to massacre, starvation, or something far more mysterious. But what makes this case truly haunting is the idea of an entire community simply disappearing from the face of the earth without leaving answers behind. The Beast of Gévaudan, the real monster of France. Between 1764 and 1767, a series of brutal attacks terrorized the region of Gévaudan in southern France. Witnesses described a creature unlike any ordinary animal, larger than a wolf, with powerful jaws, dark fur, and a behavior that seemed almost calculated. It didn't strike on instinct, it hunted. Most of the victims were women and children, and reports included something even more disturbing. The creature often ignored livestock and other animals, seemingly targeting humans instead. Panic spread quickly. Local hunters tried to bring it down, without success. Soldiers were sent in. Even King Louis XV ordered the creature to be killed, but it kept appearing and killing. In total, more than 100 people were said to have died. Eventually, a hunter named Jean Chastel claimed he had shot and killed the beast. After that, the attack stopped. But here's the problem. The animal was never definitively identified. Some say it was just an unusually large wolf. Others believe it could have been a hyena, a hybrid, or even something trained by humans. And then there are those who go further, because to many, this wasn't just an animal. It was something that shouldn't have existed. And the question still lingers. What was really hunting those people in the shadows of Gévaudan? 6. The Voynich Manuscript. Among all the mysteries in history, few are as intriguing as the Voynich manuscript. Discovered in the early 20th century, this book feels like it came from another world. Its pages are filled with unfamiliar symbols, written in a language no one has been able to decipher to this day. And it's not for lack of trying. Cryptographers, linguists, even code breakers who worked on wartime ciphers have studied the manuscript without success. But the text is only part of the puzzle. The illustrations are even more bizarre. Plants that don't exist, diagrams that look almost scientific, and human figures engaged in scenes that are difficult to interpret, as if they represent some kind of hidden knowledge. Carbon dating suggests the book was created sometime in the 15th century, which means it's over 500 years old. So the question remains, who wrote it, and why? Some believe it's an incredibly sophisticated code. Others think it could be a lost language. And then there are those who suspect something simpler, yet just as unsettling. What if it's all an elaborate hoax? A meaningless book, created to deceive the entire world? But if that's the case, how did someone manage to fool experts for so many centuries? 7. The Mystery of the Flannan Islands Lighthouse. In December of 1900, something strange unfolded at a remote lighthouse in the Flannan Isles, specifically on the island of Eilean Mor. 3 men worked there as lighthouse keepers. Their job was simple: keep the light burning to guide ships through the dangerous waters. Then, without warning, the light went out. A passing ship noticed the unusual darkness. Days later, a relief crew was sent to investigate. What they found was deeply unsettling. The lighthouse was empty. No sign of the 3 men. No bodies, no clear evidence of a struggle. Inside, a few details stood out. Chairs out of place, as if someone had left in a hurry. One of the keeper's coats was still there, suggesting that at least one of them went outside without protection against the harsh cold. Outside, the scene was even more puzzling. Massive waves crashed against the rocks, but nothing fully explained how all 3 men could have vanished at the same time. Logbook entries mentioned severe storms, and even unusual behavior among the keepers themselves, including unexplained fear. But there's a problem. There were no recorded storms in the area at that time. So what really happened there? Were they swept away by the sea? Did something go wrong between them? Or did they witness something they were never meant to see? Because to this day, the lighthouse still stands, but the men who kept it running simply vanished. 8. The WOW signal. Extraterrestrial contact. On August 15, 1977, one of the most intriguing events in the search for extraterrestrial life took place in the United States at the Big Ear radio telescope operated by Ohio State University. That night, an extremely strong radio signal was detected coming from deep space, something unusual and highly specific. The man analyzing the data, astronomer Jerry R. Amen, was so struck by it that he wrote a single word next to the printout: "Wow." and that's how the event got its name. The signal lasted just 72 seconds, but in that brief window, it displayed characteristics that seemed intentional. It came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, a region rich with sun-like stars. And the most unsettling part? It was never detected again. Scientists have spent decades trying to explain it. Some theories point to terrestrial interference, unknown natural signals, or even reflections from comets, but no explanation has fully accounted for all of its features. And that raises a haunting possibility. What if it wasn't an accident? What if it was an attempt at communication that we simply didn't understand? Because in the vast silence of the universe, maybe someone already tried to reach us, and we just didn't know how to listen. 9. The Bermuda Triangle. Between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico lies the enigmatic Bermuda Triangle. Over the decades, ships and planes have vanished there, without a trace. One of the most famous cases is Flight 19 in 1945, 5 aircraft that disappeared after reporting compass malfunctions, and they weren't the only ones. Theories range from natural phenomena to far more extreme explanations. But no answer is definitive, keeping it because even today,